In the last 2 days, the NHL was told that the Winnipeg Jets are very interested in a trade revolving around Patrik Laine. Most people think that Laine this year had the best season of his career, rounding out his defensive game while still being on a point per game pace. He didn't score as many goals as he has before, but if he can become the consistent 40 to 50 goal scorer we all know he can be while keeping his defensive game, he could become one of the best wingers in the league. So let's take a look at some of the teams he could possibly be sent to. Our first trade involves the Montreal Canadiens. They're a team that has always been trying to get star players when they are available, whether it's through trade, free agency, or even with an offer sheet. So it makes sense that they would be a team going after Laine. In this deal, I have the Jets receiving Max Domi and Jeff Petrie. Domi has been rumored to be on his way out of Montreal, and he would fit well on the Jets. The Jets are in need of that true second-line center, and I think Domi can be exactly that. Petrie is a veteran defenseman who is very solid and can really improve that Winnipeg blue line. Obviously, Petrie just got given that 4-year contract extension worth $6.25 million. Now, the Canadiens' blue line would be left in a bit of a bad spot after this deal, but they will have a decent amount of cap space this offseason as they're getting rid of Petrie's contract and let's say the $4 to $5 million they would have given Domi this offseason. And the only player really of importance they need to sign is Victor Mete, and I don't think he'll want more than $4 or $3 million a season. So that leaves them about $6 million in cap space to sign whatever the replacement would be for Petrie. Not to mention they will likely also have Romanov joining the team. Now, Domi joining the Jets would add to the amount of players they already need to sign this offseason, but it's really only depth players that they need to sign, so I think they would be fine. So let's take a look at what the Canadiens could look like next season. I think Laine will play on the top line with Suzuki, who I think would play amazing with him, and Tatar, who I think would be a great fit as well. On D, I think Romanov will slot in on the top pairing with Weber, and like I said, I think the Canadiens could go after a replacement for Petrie, which could make this D core pretty solid. Moving over to the Jets lines, all of Domi centering a second line with Ehlers and Roslovic. While it is definitely not as good as when Laine was on it, the center improves, and if Roslovic continues developing, it's a solid second line. Switching gears to defense, I have Petrie playing with the rookie Heinola. I think this pairing would work quite well, and I'm sure Heinola could learn a lot from Petrie. So looking at the overall D-core, I think it's actually pretty solid now. The entire top four consists of guys that I believe can put up 40-plus points. Our next trade has Laine being sent to the Hurricanes in exchange for Hayden Fleury, Vincent Trocheck, and a 2021 first-round pick. So Trocheck could go on to that second line with Ehlers and probably Roslovic. I think Trocheck would be a great fit in Winnipeg, as he's someone I think can put up 50-plus points a season, and even though he's only 5'10", he's a physical player, having had 101 hits in only 62 games. He's also solid defensively. Then they're also getting Hayden Fleury, who I believe in his prime can put up 30 points and be very solid defensively. He'll also improve the blue line right now, making it better defensively. So looking at the Jets' cap situation after this trade, it would be very similar to before, with Trocheck making $5 million and Fleury probably wanting around $4 million. The Hurricanes would be left with about $5 million in cap space, which is definitely not ideal, but they should make it work even if it means losing a guy like Vatson or Williams. As for the first round pick, I think it will most likely fall somewhere in the 20s, as Carolina will very likely make the playoffs next season and potentially make it quite far. So looking at the Hurricanes lines, I have Laine going on the top line to assemble an all-finish line. I think that this line would be great, and I wouldn't be surprised if Laine and Svetch kept swapping. Defense, it gets a little weaker, obviously with Fleury gone. I also didn't include Vatanen, as I don't think the Canes will be able to re-sign him. So moving over to the Jets, I put Trocheck on the second line with Ehlers and Roslovic, and I've put Fleury with Heinola. Now, I don't think this trade improves the Jets right now, but I think with that first rounder, this trade will benefit them. On to our second to last trade, the biggest one on this list, I have Laine Little, who will have 35% of his salary retained, and a second round pick being sent to the Calgary Flames in exchange for Sean Monahan, TJ Brody, and Andrew Mangiapane. So the Jets are getting a really solid second line center in Monahan. He's a guy that I think can consistently put up 60-plus points while being very solid defensively and physically. Mangiapane is a young winger who really impressed me this season, putting up 32 points in 68 games while being great defensively and physically. I see him as someone who can put up 20 goals and maybe 25 assists. Brody is a very solid defensive D-man who can really boost that Jets blue line. I should mention that in this case, I'll have Brody being signed for 5 years at $5.3 million a year. Looking at the cap for these two teams, the Jets would be left with $12.1 million in cap and an extra RFA to sign. The Flames would be making a slight cap dump of $3.5 million, which puts them in a good spot of having around $20 million in cap space. And I think they will have a decent amount of cap after this trade to replace Brody on the blue line. So taking a look at the Flames lines after this trade, I don't think they look as good as before, but they should have a good amount of cap to sign either another forward and defenseman. Laine on that top line with Lindholm and Gaudreau, I think would be amazing. Gaudreau is an amazing playmaker and Laine is an amazing sniper, so you can see how that would pan out. Then I have Little actually playing right wing with Backlund and Kachuk. I think this would be a solid enough line for them. Over on the defensive side, things don't really look that great. I think Anderson and Hannafin need to have great years, and Valimaki needs to have a great rookie season. You can see that I didn't have them keeping Gustafsson. I think they'll spend that money to get a better, more all-around defenseman. I did add Phillips to the third line. He had a great AHL season with 33 points in 37 games. He's very undersized, though, standing at only 5'7" and 155 pounds. So I'd like to hear any Flames fans' thoughts in the comments about him making the NHL. Switching over to the Jets, I'll have Monahan playing with Ehlers and Mangiapane, which I think is a very good second line. This line will be able to put up points while also playing a fantastic defensive game. Brody I see playing with Heinola, playing on the right side even though he shoots left. I really like the look of this Jets team. Their D-core is solid now, and their offense, in my opinion, is still similar to before, but they have two very solid two-way forwards in Monahan and Mangiapane. Our final trade is another huge one where Laine and Matthew Perreault are sent to the Edmonton Oilers in exchange for Ryan Nugent-Hopkins and a 2021 second-round pick. So Nugent-Hopkins would be an absolutely amazing second-line center for the Jets. He's a point-per-game guy who's solid in all areas of the ice. Laine, I think, would just be amazing with McDavid. If he goes to the Oilers, I really don't see why Laine can't score 50 goals like he was drafted to do. Just imagine a line of Draisaitl, McDavid, and Laine. I don't think Draisaitl would be playing with them, but just imagine. Perreault is added and is a bit of a cap dump for the Jets, as he's making $4.1 million through next season. Perreault is a solid player who can probably put up 30 to 40 points a season on Edmonton. As for cap, the Oilers wouldn't be left with that much, but they don't need a ton this offseason anyways. The Jets would be left with just over $20 million in cap space and could probably have over $10 million heading into the offseason to sign a defenseman. I wouldn't be surprised if they had enough cap to bring in a guy like Pietrangelo, who'd probably be asking for $8 to $9 million. So taking a look at the Oilers' lines after this trade, obviously Laine is sliding into that right side with McDavid. Then I have Perreault playing with Draisaitl and Yamamoto. I think Perreault can thrive in this role if he can return to form. Now, there's no additions on the defense, but that doesn't mean it isn't improved. I have Bouchard and Broberg making the team full-time, and if they play well, I think that's a fairly solid D-core. Switching to the Jets, Nugent-Hopkins is obviously playing on the second line, which I think is quite solid. The defense doesn't change, but the Jets in this scenario will have enough cap to go after someone like Pietrangelo or Krug. They could also sign a cheaper D-man and improve the second line right winger spot. So I really like the makeup of what this Jets team could look like with the cap they have. They could once again become major cup contenders in my opinion. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed today's video. Make sure you tell me in the comment section what your favorite mock trade was. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe with post notifications. Have a good day, and bye.